I often think about how underrated and well thought out Overrun was in Judgment, and it felt like a good evolution to Beast Mode. Beast Mode was a fun, creative mode for Gears 3, however, it suffered from a lack of replayability and low player counts. Overrun was the diamond in the rough for Judgment, and I think it would be really a shame to never improve on that formula. So, here's how Overrun 2.0 would be a great addition for Gears 5, or even Gears 6. As always, if you're new and love the video, drop a like, comment and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much. Without further ado, here's Gears 5, how Overrun 2.0 would change the game. Much of the groundwork for this simple but significant upgrade has already been laid out by Judgment in Gears 5. The brilliance of the enemy design in Gears 5 is that it tends to lend itself to lots of potential swarm classes. The variety of swarm is a good way to build a tier system. The idea is to streamline the in-game progression system, improve class variety, and expand the scope of in-game rewards, and to be honest, the Coalition have missed a great monetization route for this. From the perspective of a head of business, they should be slapping themselves right now. If you don't know what Overrun is, it's 5 cog heroes versus 5 Locust monsters in an attack versus defense game mode. The Locusts have to work together to break through fortifications and destroy an E-hole cover. If the time runs out, cog wins. If the Locusts destroy all E-hole covers, they win. The difference is that many different Locusts are playable, from Ticker to Mauler, from Wretch to Boomer. The objective in Overrun 2.0 is the same. The monsters have to work together to break open E-holes to plant seeders if you're a Locust, or break open a pit to place pods if you're a Swarm. It would also be 1 to 5 rounds instead of 1 to 3. Fortifications can be placed in set locations but cannot be rebuilt if destroyed. These include fences, turrets, sentries and walls. You do not need points to choose a Locust from a tier unless they are villains. Only 1 villain is available per game, so don't waste it. But let's focus on that class system. I propose 2 specific eras to help make the game feel a bit more immersive and cinematic, as it would be really jarring to have a Matriarch and Berserker at the same time. Much like Star Wars Battlefront has 3 separate eras with unique factions for each one, Gears could get away with this also. This wouldn't apply to COG, as there would be significantly less characters to choose from the Swarm era. As for the COG, the classes are already made for us, ultimates and all. Obviously for the sake of balance, ultimate times would have to be cut down or increased like Living Legend, and I think limiting the cards to 3 would make your choices more important, and also clamp down on some broken builds. The most interesting bit would be the Swarm and Locust classes, who would receive simple ultimates and access to skill cards too, albeit less powerful ones than the COG. And the more powerful the Locust or Swarm is, the less cards they have access to. The tier system for the Locust would be split into 5 tiers, with each tier being accessible in the respective rounds, from 1 to 5. For example, the tier 1 Locust get a skill in round 2, then 3 and lastly round 4. However, if your monster is from tier 3, you only get access to 2 skills, 1 if you're in tier 4 and 2 in tier 5. This is done to keep the lower tiers more useful and stop the higher tiers getting too overwhelming. The same applies to COG, where by round 3 they should have access to all 3 skill cards. Today we're just going to look at the Locust for the sake of conciseness, but if you guys want it, I can do a part 2 for the Swarm classes. Now, onto the tiers. This consists of the Ticker, Grenadier, Locust Drone, Wretch and Savage Drone. The Ticker would have access to a short speed boost to rush your enemies and would be able to attack fortifications and explode. The 3 abilities it gains would be faster attack speed, larger explosive radius and shorter speed boost cooldown. The Grenadier would be armed with a Nasher and a Snub, with more health but slower movement speed. He would also have a frag grenade. His ultimate would be Berserk, which he would have increased health for a short amount of time. His skill cards would be more Nasher ammo, an extra grenade and shorter cooldown for his ultimate. The Locust Drone would be equipped with a Hammer Burst, Bolt-Ock and Smoke Grenades. His ultimate would spot all enemies on the map for a short amount of time. His skill cards would be more Hammer Burst ammo, an extra Smoke Grenade and longer duration for his ultimate. The Savage Drone would have a Retro Lancer and Incendiary Grenades. His ultimate would be increased retro fire rate for a very short amount of time. His skills would also include more retro ammo, an extra incendiary and a larger blast radius for his grenade. Lastly, the Wretch can leap over walls and fortifications and can hit enemies up close. His ability would be a Scream that stuns nearby cog for a few seconds. His skill cards would increase the scream radius, movement speed and lastly increases damage from his melee attacks. Tier 2 kicks things up a notch, adding variations on the standard Locust and heavier troops. We have the Flame Grenadier, Sniper, Cyclops and Bolter, and the Cantus, Butcher and Boomer. The Flame Grenadier behaves much like the Grenadier, but the Scorcher is his only weapon. His increased armor means he can only be shot in his exposed areas, which slows him greatly. However, if you can shoot his tank, he's good as toast. His ultimate increases his Scorcher range for a short amount of time. His skill cards give him slightly increased movement, a stronger fuel tank, and lastly an extended ultimate time. The sniper is a very simple class and only uses the long shot but is capable of one-shotting the cog. He has limited ammo, so make your shots count. His ultimate gives him a piercing round which can pass through enemies like an Empire round. His skill cards give him extra ammo, no flinch when shot, and an explosive effect to his ultimate, dealing damage to fortifications or multiple enemies. The Cyclops is fitted with a Lancer Mark II and a snub pistol. His ultimate allows him to rev his chainsaw and destroy a fence instantly. His skill cards include no stun on using chainsaw, extra Lancer rounds, and 2 uses of his ultimate, but with longer cooldown. The bolter is equipped with a Boltok and frag grenades. He carries much more ammo as this is his only weapon and moves quicker than other drones. His ultimate allows his Boltok rounds to stun with a headshot and an extra grenade, taking it up to 3, and lastly much faster reload for his Boltok. Moving on to the Cantus, armed with a Gorgon pistol and ink grenades. He's the first class that cannot take cover. His ultimate allows him to heal or revive any unit, but this doesn't work on tier 5 enemies or villains. Tier 4 enemies are only healed for 50% of their health. His skills increase his ink grenade count, his Gorgon fire rate, and his health. The Butcher is next, wielding his massive cleaver. His ultimate gives him a burst of speed to charge at enemies, with his skill cards increasing his movement speed, cleaver swing speed, and resistance to fortifications. Lastly, in tier 2 is the Boomer, carrying a boom shot with a handful of rounds. The only thing his ultimate does is refill his boom shot ammo. His skills increase the boom shot projectile speed, explosive radius, and prevents him from saying boom. Now, on to tier 3. Tier 3 is made up of the Theron Guard, Hunter, Rager, Mauler, Grinder, Serapede, and Bloodmap. The Theron Guard uses a Lancer and Torque Bow with an ultimate that refills his Torque Bow ammo. His skills include a shorter reload for the Torque Bow and the ability to spot 2 cog at once. The Hunter Elite is a faster, more aggressive Grenadier with even more health. He is equipped with a Nasher and multiple frag grenades. His ultimate allows enemies to be seen through walls for a short duration and receive extra damage from small arms. His skills include an extra frag and faster fire rate for his Nasher. The Rager carries a breach shot and smoke grenades. His ultimate makes him enraged and increases his health massively. His skill cards shorten his transition time to enraged status and adds more breach shot ammo. The Mauler has his classic flail and boom shield, with his ultimate allowing to spin his shield, shredding his enemies or reflecting bullets back at them. His skills would be faster swing time and increased ultimate duration. The Grinder is equipped with his Mulcher, with his ultimate preventing it from overheating for a few seconds. His skill cards would increase his ammo and health. The Serapede is the go-to for destroying fortifications. It can attack using its pincers or rearing on its back and spitting electric webs to stun enemies. Its ultimate would see it retract its vulnerable backside, making it invulnerable for a few seconds. Its skill cards increase the attack speed and the duration of the stun produced by its electric webs. Lastly is the Blood Mount, which can attack using its melee attack, or you can mark targets for the Beast Rider to shoot with its Hammer Burst. If you activate its ultimate before death, the Beast Rider will carry on in the fight with reduced health. Its skill cards increase the Beast Rider's accuracy and increases the window to save the Beast Rider. Now on to tier 4. Tier 4 is the last regular tier and contains some of the meanest locusts. These locusts are limited to 1 on the field at the time and you can only use 1 per game. If your tier 4 locust dies, you have to use tier 3 or below for the rest of the game. The idea is that this tier has to be special and should be used when necessary. The tier consists of the Berserker, Brewmark, Armored Cantus, and Corpser. The Berserker is what you expect, can charge and smash like in beast mode, and it's weak to fire and ice. Its ultimate consists of Super Scent, allowing to briefly see enemies outside its limited vision. Its skill card would add an extended ultimate duration. The Brewmark is equipped with a stomp attack and chain guns on both arms. It's incredibly durable, but if you can flank it, its tanks will take massive damage, resulting in an explosion that can kill other enemies. Its ultimate allows you to fire rockets at your cog enemies. Its skill card adds extra damage to fortifications. The Armored Cantus wields 2 Gorgon pistols, can roll to damage enemies, and is only damaged by explosives. Its ultimate will fully heal all units but has a long cooldown. The final class would be the Corpser. This would be a first for the franchise. Slow moving but powerful, the Corpser is armoured all over except for its head. If you manage to hit its head, you can deal massive damage. The Corpser can attack with its massive legs. Its ultimate allows it to send out explosive shock with its attack, and its skill card will allow it to move slightly faster. Moving on to our final tier, tier 5, Villains. Our last tier is extremely special and only 1 villain is usable each game. To play as a villain it needs to be round 5, the Locusts need to reach a certain score threshold, and the MVP will be given the opportunity to play as a villain. If they decline, a random person will be asked. When a villain is on the battlefield, only tier 3 and below can be used for the other players for the sake of balance. Each boss retreats after its health has been reduced to 0. Who else was going to be first on the list? Rahm exudes dread and is equipped with his special Troika and knife. Rahm has a massive amount of health due to his Krill shield. He attacks using his Troika, which deals massive damage and can charge enemies with his giant knife. Rahm's ultimate increases his Krill storm, shredding anyone who comes near to him. Rahm is weak to explosives and takes extended damage after being hit by them. Shooting him in the head with headshot weapons will increase the damage Rahm takes. The High Priest enters the fray wielding his chainsaw staff. Scourge is incredibly agile and can move around the map at a much higher speed than any other unit. He has much less health than Rahm, but is much harder to hit. His ultimate allows him to spin his chainsaw staff and deflect bullets off for a short amount of time, but has an incredibly quick recharge. Like Gears 2, you can chainsaw duel him with another player. If you beat him 3 times in a duel, he automatically retreats. If not, it's an insta-kill for both of you. Zamul Khan returns to crush the humans, riding his signature beast, Shibboleth. He has a large amount of health, lots of firepower, but is a huge target. He's equipped with chain guns and an incendiary launcher, with his ultimate automatically killing a player with his Boltok. If you can shoot Khan atop his battle beast, he takes extra damage. The legendary sniper of the Bloody Vanguard comes to claim your scalp. Jamad is equipped with his signature breach shot ready to pop heads. Jamad plays like a regular Locust with tons of ammo. He's immune to headshot damage so he cannot be counter-sniped, and his ultimate allows him to take a shot through cover, meaning no one is safe. He's definitely the most skill-based villain, but his low profile and long-range abilities mean he could be a hard target. The disgraced Uzo is back to reclaim his honour, destroying any in his path to redemption. Srak wields a torque bow that has 3 bolts in the magazine, requiring a reload every 3 shots. He's invulnerable to damage unless he is shot in the head or with explosive weapons. His ultimate allows him to temporarily increase other units' damage output. Upon defeat, each villain will retreat using a special animation. Rahm is enveloped in Krill and is picked up by his special Reaver, Scourge is picked up by his Hydra, Khan burrows back into the ground with Shibboleth, Jamad disappears in a smoke grenade, and lastly Srak is picked up by a regular Reaver. Something I want to come out right and say that this would be very difficult to create from an engineering perspective, as well as making all these classes and villains feel good to play. It would require dedicated maps, larger maps, which would take away from the standard multiplayer maps development. The game would support more players, but would also be very difficult to balance. You would not only have to balance Locust skills, but you would also have to balance the hero classes for Horde and Overrun 2.0, let's say Escape doesn't exist in this scenario. It would also mean conflicts with customization. Players would not be able to customize certain classes, however, Locust skins would be more valuable, especially for the villains. Not to mention, this would also take away from the development of regular character skins. Personally, I think the mode would be really good as a way to improve Gears, but also a cinematic marketing piece for the game. How cool would it be to play as these larger than life characters, how they appear in the lore? It would expand the scope of PvP, and it would also entice PvE fans into playing a more familiar mode. Obviously, this is just a concept, but I think this, given the right resources, could really flourish. It would not be possible in the scope of Gears 5 launch, development and post-launch. However, if Gears 6 would give him more development time, I could see it being possible. Personally, it's a pipe dream to me, despite how much it would expand the scope of the gameplay, and if it was supported properly with polish, maps and balancing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that sub button and drop a like and comment, it really helps me out. Thanks again for watching.